Welcome back. In this lecture, we'll explore loops. What if we wanted to repeat some set of instructions several times? In Python, we can do this with for or while. For syntax is as follows. For variable in sequence, repeat these instructions in the for body. For example, for I in range of 10, print I. Range is a function that will return the values from 0 to 9. In the first iteration, I will have a value of 0. Then print will execute and it will print 0 on the screen. In the next iteration, I will have value of 1. And print statement again will be executed, printing the value of 1. And then I will have the value of 2. Print statement will execute and print the value of 2, etc. until it reaches 9. Then the loop will exit. We can also have nested for loops. In this case, we have an external loop and an internal loop. In this scenario, I in the external loop will have the value of 0. Then J in the internal loop will have the value of 0 also. Then print will print the value of I and J. Then J will have the value of 1. Print will execute and print 0 and 1. And then J will have the value of 2. Print again will be executed and it will print 0 and 2. And etc. until it reaches 9. Then the internal loop will reach its final value, so it will exit. And then the external loop will go to its next iteration. I will have the value of 1 and J will have the value of 0. Print will execute and print 1 and 0. Then J will have the value of 1. Print will execute and so on until the external loop reach its final value, which is 9 also. While execute the instruction in the body until a condition is not met. So while checks this condition, it will execute the body until this condition is not true. For example, I will be assigned 0 while I less than 10. So let's ask ourselves, is I less than 10? Yes. So this body will execute. It will print the value of I, which is 0. Then I will be incremented by 1. And then the loop condition will be checked again. The value is still less than 10. So the print statement will execute and print the value of I, which is 1. I will be incremented again, etc. until I reach 9. I will be checked. It's still less than 10. So the print statement will print 9 and I will have the value of 10. This condition will not be met. So the loop will exit. Okay, so let's fire up our Jupyter notebook and explore looping a bit more. Welcome back. So let's write our first for loop. For I in range. If we click on Shift Tab, it will give us the help for the range function. The syntax for range is range, start, and stop, and step. Okay, or range, stop. So range can take either single parameter, which will mean that this is the stop value, or can take 2 parameters, which is the start and the step, or it can take 3 parameters, which is the start, the initial value, the stop, the end value, and a step. We will see it in action during this lecture. So let's start by the simplest case. Let's start by range of 10. This means that 10 is not included, so it will give us the number from 0 to 9. Let's print I. Okay, so it has printed I from 0 to 9. If we did not specify the start, it will be always assumed to be 0. So let's give it another try for I in range of 3 to 10. Let's print I. This will start from 3 to 10, but 10 is not included. It will start from 3 to 9. Remember, 10 is not included. Okay, so let's have another example. For I in range of 1 to 6, step 2. Print I. This will start from 1 and adds 2 to each iteration. So the first iteration is 1. Next iteration is 1 plus 2, which is 3. Third iteration is 2 plus 3, which will equal 5. Okay? We have checked the different combinations for the range function. So let's continue with exploring for loops. Let's write another for loop for I in range of 5. Print. Let's have a string formatted. We will print iteration, and then let's put the value of I in here. It will just print iteration from 0 to 4. Okay, so how about nesting for loops? For I in range of 5, for j in range of 5 again. Please note the colon and indentation. Print I and j. First iteration, I will always have 0. J will change from 0 to 4. Then I will have value of 1. J will have the values from 0 to 4, etc. until I will reach the value of 4. Okay. For I in range of 5, print I. In here I'll type else. Else means that the loop is finished without interruption. So let's try it. Okay, when the for loop is finished without any interruption, it will execute whatever is found in the else statement. So what does it mean to have a loop interruption? Let's check this example. For I in range of 5 again, print I. If I equals 3, then break. Okay. And here we will have else, print loop finished without break. Okay. Break statement, if it is executed, break will break the loop. So once the I reaches the value of 3, this condition will be true, break will be executed, and then break the loop. Else did not execute this time. Okay, let's take one more example. For I in range of 1 to 11, if I is divisible by 2 equals 0, print format string I is an even number. Here I'll have another statement called continue. Okay, continue will continue the loop. What I mean by that is, if I typed in here another format string I is an odd number. Okay, let's check that syntax. If I is divisible by 2, it will print this statement and then continue. If I did not add continue in here, the next statement will be executed. If I is not divisible by 2, the body of the if statement will not execute, and I'll go directly to this statement. So if we executed this, it will print the numbers from 1 to 10, specifying if this number is odd or even. Okay, how about while loop? While, on the other hand, is another looping technique in Python. It's similar to for loop, but it have other uses. For example, let's first get introduced to while. I'll define a variable I with initial value of 0, then while I less than or equal 5, print I, and then I'll increment I with 1. This will print the values from 0 to 4. It's similar to for I in range of 5, print I. Okay, let's have another example. I equals 0 while true, print I plus equal 1. If I equals 5, break. Let's think about this for a minute. While true, this means that the loop will run indefinitely unless we break the loop from inside the while. Let's first run this code. We have seen break in the for statement. When break is executed, it will exit the loop. Okay, so imagine that if we did not break, what will happen? Let's give it a shot. I repeat these statements, but I will not put the break, and also I will not print the I. Let's run it. If you noticed in here, there is an asterisk beside the cell. This means that the cell is still executing. We haven't noticed this in the previous cells because the execution did not take a very long time. Okay, to interrupt this execution, I can click on here. If I did not interrupt the execution, the loop will continue running forever. Okay, let's print the value of I. So the loop had executed for almost 105 billion times before we stopped executing it. So this is one of the differences between while and for. The difference is, if you know how many iterations in advance, use for loop. If you don't, use while. Okay, I have a quiz for you. This printout is created by a for loop. The for loop simply print the text iteration and then the iteration number. It's obvious that the iteration number is the loop index. So, how can we create such out? Pause the video, think about it, and then join me back. Okay. It's very simple. We had created a for loop starting from 1 and ending at 10,001 so that we can print the 10,000. Then we have an if condition to check if the loop index I is divisible by 1000. If the remainder is 0, then this is 1000 or 2000 or 3000, etc. Then a print statement with a formatted string that print iteration as a text and the iteration number. Okay, let's have another example. For I in range of 1 and 10, for j in range of I, print str of I dot l just for when n equals space. Then print. Okay, before we execute this nested for loops, let's think about it for a minute. The internal loop have a range of I. This means that the range value will be changed. First time it will be 1, second time it will be 2, third time 3, until it reaches 9, because I will have the values from 1 to 9. Okay, so inside the internal loop, we will convert I to string, and then we will use left alignment in 4 spaces. We have seen L just before in our string lesson. It's used to print a number of spaces and align the string to the left. The print function have another parameter that we haven't seen before. It's called end. If we click Shift Tab, the help for the print function will be displayed. The end is the string appended after the last value, default to a new line. If I specify the end as space, each time the I is printed in the internal loop, it will not print a new line. It will just print space. But in the external loop, it will print a new line. So let's execute this and see what it will provide. Okay, in the first iteration, I have the value of 1. The internal loop, it will iterate 1 time where j will equal to 0. It will convert the I value to string and then adjust it in 4 spaces. Okay. In the second iteration, I will have the value of 2. the internal loop will be executed twice, since I value in here will be 2. So it will print the value of I in 4 spaces. This is the first one, this is the second one, and both aligned to the left of the 4 spaces. As you can see, we did not print a new line in here after the first print, and neither in here, but we printed in this print statement. Third iteration, I will have the value of 3. So the internal loop will be executed 3 times, which will print 3 different times. Okay. I have one more quiz for you. How about creating a timetable? I have created this timetable with a nested for loops. Think about it. How can we create something like this? Pause the video for a minute and join me back after you gave it something. It's very simple. If we have looked at the previous example, we will use almost the same statement, except for a couple of 2 small things. We will use a nested for loops that both starts from 1 and end at 13, since we are gonna finish at 12. Okay. Then we will print I multiplied by j, left adjusted in 4 spaces again, and we will not print a new line at the end, we will print space, and we will print new line in the external for loop. If you have solved this quiz, then congratulations. If you didn't, don't worry about it. This will conclude our loops lecture. Thank you for watching and join me in the next lecture.